All right, guys, back here on Southeastern 14 with Max Barr. We are previewing the sort of highlight games for Saturday in SEC basketball. One of those, of course, is Purdue against Alabama. Those two teams are going to square off in Toronto. And Max will tell us all about the venue and everything involved in this Toronto location. But before we get there, let's tell you about Bet Online. The holiday season off and rolling, NFL in full stride, NBA and NHL also in mid-season form. So is college basketball, folks. College basketball is back. And if you want to bet on these games we talk about, you head to our friends at Bet Online, your number one destination for all your sports wagering info. They've got up to the minute sports wagering news, odds, trends, predictions. The top spot for everything pro and amateur sports, that is Bet Online. Not just the big four, as we always say. They've got MMA, international soccer, and they've got all the info you need at your fingertips, both desktop and mobile access anytime for almost any sport that is played out there. So head to Bet Online today. Remember, use that promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That just helps the channel. So if you guys want to support us, head on over to Bet Online. BELIEVE, your promo code, 50% off your first deposit. So Bet Online is where the game starts. All right, let's talk about this Purdue-Alabama game, which, full disclosure, we were recording this for a second time because we did not necessarily think the Grant Nelson injury could be as perhaps significant to the point to where he doesn't play in this game. But Max, it does seem like that is a real possibility, and that obviously changes some things when you start to break down this matchup between the Crimson Tide and the Boilermakers.
Yeah, just reports coming from Nate Oats. Note 8s. Wow, we're
Note
off to a
8
good
too.
start.
I think Note 8's reported that as well.
Yeah,
From what
so
I hear.
Note 8s is he's been talking a lot lately.
Note 8's.
Yeah, Oats has said that it's just leaning towards not playing. He hasn't practiced all week, and I think we're recording this on Friday. This is his ramp up day. This is his test day, workout day. So we'll see. I'm leaning towards no. I think it's more like a 25% chance if you're playing fantasy football, questionable, doubtful range. But Alabama's not going to play at Mackey, right? This is in Toronto. All you Toronto Marlies Maple Leaf Farm Team fans, you finally get to watch a college basketball game.
A lot of those in the SEC
Coca-Cola
from what I hear.
Coliseum.
So,
But yeah, with Nelson out, obviously definitely changes things. If you're trying to find a prediction for this spread, you can go to a bunch of different analytics sites to average out what you think the line might be. Somewhere around 5 or 6 with Nelson. Without him, probably add a possession or two onto that Purdue spread. So, yeah, definitely changes things. And Blake, the first time we recorded this, we were talking a lot about how Alabama has just front court bodies, just 6'10" bodies that they can throw at Edey. But without Nelson, that kind of changes things here. What are you looking for here, Blake?
well, yeah, I mean, I think it's look, we could start on the defensive end. Everybody knows I'm pretty predictable when it comes to that in Alabama.
Yep.
But it's true because this is going to be the best offensive team they played. And just having another guy, like you said, that is out there. Obviously, Grant Nelson's we more so know him for his offense and those things specifically. But again, you are talking about someone we know that is going to contribute also on that side of the floor, being able to block shots, grab some rebounds. And so if you take him out of the mix, that becomes a bigger challenge against a Zach Edey led Purdue team, which again, I think, you have challenges on both sides of the floor, but here's what it comes down to, right? It's if you've looked at Alabama and you've seen their 2 losses this season, even in wins, against quality competition, if we take out games, where they've dominated different opponents and, not knocking South Alabama, not knocking teams like that, but teams against the upper tier competition they played, Ohio State, Oregon, Clemson. I'd say those are the 3 best teams they played at this point.
Yeah.
You give up 92 to Ohio State, you give up 91 to Oregon in a win, you give up 85 to Clemson. And so I think that's where this whole game starts for me, especially if you're assuming that Grant Nelson doesn't play. Even if he does play, we're going to assume he's not at 100%. I think that's probably
Right.
safe to say.
Right.
So how does Alabama defend? You got a lot of guys that are going to have to step up. We've seen some of those guys do that to this point. But I think this game really does come down to how does Alabama defend a Purdue team that, is pretty good in a lot of different areas. And, they're kind of a little more balanced in terms of where they're going to get their points. Because as I'm sure we're going to talk about, Alabama's point distribution, we know where it's coming from. It's coming from the 3-point line and it's coming from the free throw line, which is what Nate Oates wants, right? Like he wants those things to kind of drive what this team is. On the flip side, Purdue has been an elite defensive team to this point, which again is helped by having Zach Edey on the floor, who's going to change shots and change how teams approach how they attack them, because it's not as easy as just going in and say, oh, we're just going to shoot a layup over the 7-4 guy, right? So a lot of interesting questions here for Alabama heading into this game. Even if they do have Grant Nelson, there's a lot of questions in terms of things that they're going to have to do better and more consistently than they've done to this point in the season against top tier opponents.
Yep, that's pretty much Alabama's season in a bottle to this point so far. I'm glad you mentioned where Alabama's going to get their points from. One of those is free throws. 14th in the country in free throw rate right now. Don't put too much into your early season analytics, but still, that just shows you they get to the line and they score a lot from the free throw line. All right. And Purdue defends without fouling. This team does not foul on defense. Painter, it's how he's always coached his defenses at Purdue the past few years with those guys 7 foot plus playing drop coverage. They just do not foul. So that's one area that Alabama's not going to have a bit of an edge that they normally do, unless Purdue starts making some uncharacteristic mistakes and starts getting sped up, which leads me into a conversation about the tempo of this game, which might play into Alabama's hands a little bit. If there's anything Alabama has going for them, it's the pace of this game with Sears and Estrada and how they can really get going. You're going to need a huge game out of those guards. I'll tell you that much. But real quick about Purdue, this is the fastest tempo they've played in the past 7 years. It's the fastest they've played since Carson Edwards was running the Purdue team. So this is going to be a faster paced game. Alabama's not going to get just half court offense to death. And Purdue has lost a lot of the turnover battles similar to last year. And this is another game where Purdue's guards are going to be playing on a neutral floor where we've seen them kind of have some hiccups. They lost the turnover battle 17-3 at Northwestern. I don't think it's going to be that bad. But if Alabama's going to need to steal some points, fast break points and some steals from Rylan Griffin and stuff like that are going to be needed. One last thing here about the Alabama front court. Grant Nelson is the team leader in blocks also. We've been talking about his offense so much. He's got 15 blocks, and second on the team is Wagi with 8. So almost doubles up second on the team in blocks. When you're guarding Zach Edey, you're going to have to double him with this without a great paint defender. You know, if you don't have Kalkbrenner, if you don't have Musa Cisse, if you don't have one of those guys, you're going to have to double Edey. Like, I'm sorry. So is Alabama going to make shots? That's kind of what it comes down to. They're going to have to make shots.
Yeah. I think it's that simple. Like, and they're going to get opportunities because Purdue's not going to force turnovers. They haven't done that much to this point. And so Alabama's going to get every chance they want to find an open shot and take a three. Like, they're going to have their chances. If they run their offense, and again, you can say, well, maybe we should just go in and just try to attack Zach Edey every time and get him in foul trouble. That's a fine thing to think about, but I just don't think you can game plan around that necessarily. It's just a hard thing to predict because there are things outside of your control involved in that. But what you can control is putting yourself in a position where, again, knowing that's the team you're playing against that's not going to force many mistakes. They haven't to this point, at least in terms of turnover rate, 342nd turnover percentage defense right now. So, yeah. So, I mean, I think, again, you just got to hit shots. And we know when you play away from home, sometimes hitting shots not the easiest thing to do. You get a little adjustment, all that. But we know Mark Sears shooting at a ridiculous rate right now. Estrada, also shooting 45% from three, and other guys who are knocking down shots. So Alabama will have their chances. This might be a game where Alabama puts up 43s. Would not be shocked because, again, no one who's on the inside on the other team. But yeah, I mean, I think that's what it comes down to. But at the same time, like I said a minute ago, it really is, for me, you trust Alabama's guards here. I mean, I think that they're pretty trustworthy at this point. Now, defensively, they're going to have to guard better on the perimeter and do those kind of things because I'm trying to remember exactly what I said the last time around when we recorded this, but I think it was more along the lines of, if you look at the Ohio State game, Ohio State shoots 56% from three in that game, 10 of 18. They got the free throw line, hit 28 of their 30 free throws, which is just ridiculous too. But, you look at the Clemson game, right? What does Clemson shoot from three? 11 of 21 for 52%. Both those teams shot well from inside the arc too, from what I remember. So yeah, just play good defense and take good shots and make shots. Like basketball can be very simple, and I think in a game like this where you have these two teams who are so talented, there is a clear, you know, advantage on each side in terms of what they do well. But it's just, you kind of have to keep doing that. Like you can't change everything just because there is a Zach Edey on the other side of the floor. Alabama's just got to play their game. They just got to play better defense. If they do that, I think they got a shot to win here, even though, as we said, without a Grant Nelson, it does take out, one of your top players for sure. And so becomes a little more challenging with it.
Without Grant Nelson, you're looking at a rotation of Waggy, Stevenson, Pringle, and then maybe some help from one of the freshmen, Diabate or Walters. But Walters is I don't think Oates is going to put him on Edey at all. I would not. That would not be wise. So I mean, you're looking at Waggy, Stevenson, Pringle, Diabate. You're looking at about 20 fouls they can soak up. I think that's enough. I think that's enough. And so then it just comes down to what we were just saying. Sears, Estrada, Griffin, right side, do they make their shots? If they do, we might be looking at a ball game here. If they struggle, Purdue could just ground and pound this thing away. But I mean, Blake, we've been saying I think this is blah 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 game or this person's game. If Grant Nelson does not go, whose game is it? Who steps up for Alabama in your opinion?
I mean, I guess you could pick one of the big guys, just kind of as an. I mean, they need Jaron Stevenson to play really well here. I
I
don't
was
think
gonna
there's
say
any.
him. I was gonna
I
say him.
mean, I feel like he's the obvious choice because
Yeah.
there have been some ups and downs, right? So I think he's the obvious choice. Now, how many minutes he plays, I don't know. He's played what around that 17 to 20 something minute range.
They're gonna need a
Of
big
course,
20 out of him.
yeah. Of course, Barry's loving the idea that Jaron Stevenson could step up here and have a big game, but
It's a sign.
it's
It's a
just
sign.
unbelievable. I'll let you talk about Stevenson while I mute while this dog continues to bark.
Hey, it's just that's a sign right there. That
He didn't do this in the first recording, by the way, folks. First
nope.
recording was clean, and now he decides to get involved here.
He said you guys weren't talking about Jaron Stevenson. Come on. Yeah, could be one of these guys is gonna have to step up. Let's put it that way. What we're gonna be watching the game, and if it's close, just get ready for one of the commentators to be like, "Man, what a game from," and it's gonna be either Waggy, Stevenson, Pringle, or Diabate. One of them's gonna have to. So yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much the breakdown. One of those guys is gonna have to step up, and then the guys who normally hit shots for Alabama are gonna have to hit those, plus probably a few more if they're gonna want to take down one of the better teams in the nation.
All right, I'm gonna have to make my prediction quick here. I'm going Purdue. I'm sorry, Alabama. We
Yep.
talked about in the last video. Max said this could be Alabama's game. He had a feeling, but that was before the Grant Nelson news. Now probably a little bit harder. So give me Purdue, but I'm really curious to see how Alabama plays here from a defensive standpoint. And like I said, they've got to come out and hit shots early to and have a chance. Because remember, guys, Purdue is just battle tested to this point. Think about the teams that they played now. I mean, they go win the Maui Invitational, had some other games, elsewhere. I know they lost the game to Northwestern, but they are battle tested. They're an experienced team too. And yeah, so I'm going to go Purdue here.
And you know what just kind of almost ruined my day? I'm just thinking about watching this game and rooting for Alabama, and that before every commercial, they're gonna cut to that Purdue guy who's just flexing the whole time. Oh, guy drives me nuts. So
I thought you were going to say Barry barking had ruined your day because you got to edit this out, but no. Okay,
no,
it's the Purdue guy.
That Purdue guy and the fans, the flexing guy, drives me insane. So, I'm gonna pick Purdue, but let me tell you, I will be pulling for Alabama so hard in this game. One, just because SEC, let's go, and also two, because I want to see that flexing guy lose.
All right, we're going with flexing guy's side here. We're not picking flexing guy. We're not rooting for him, but yeah, it's a tough challenge for Alabama again, with or without Grant Nelson. This is a good Purdue team, as we all know, and I'm very curious to see because this would be again a significant win for Alabama. We talked about their upcoming schedule: Purdue, at Creighton, Arizona, all away from home. All three of those games. We mentioned they get a couple of these. Even getting one will be nice. Like just call it what it is. You just get one and you're feeling okay. Yeah. Maybe this is it, but I think it's a tough test. So There you go. There are thoughts on Purdue, Alabama. As always, we appreciate you guys watching. Check out everything else on the channel here, and we will have more SEC basketball stuff coming for you. And of course, SEC football. If you're an Alabama fan, we'll have everything previewed for the college football playoff and all that coming up soon. So be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button as well. Again, we appreciate you guys as always. And thanks for watching here at Southeastern 14, presented by Bet Online.